The Kremlin is doing everything in its power to stop Washington from continuing its support for Kyiv, according to the Institute for the Study of War, ISW. Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, stated that if the US halts its assistance to Ukraine, it would supposedly bring peace closer. Moscow is deeply interested in sabotaging the mining deal between Washington and Kyiv, analysts believe. The deal involves long-term American investments, which would strengthen bilateral cooperation and bolster Ukraine's sovereignty.
The Kremlin is investing significant time and effort into undermining and misrepresenting the U.S.-Ukrainian mineral deal, indicating that the Kremlin views the deal as an impediment to accomplishing Russian President Vladimir Putin's objectives in Ukraine. From the Institute for the Study of War report.
Russian propagandists are attempting to present the US-Ukraine mining agreement as a threat to Ukrainian sovereignty. At the same time, they are offering an alternative, a deal with Russia, which they do not see as posing any threat to their own sovereignty. Moscow is not only offering its own resources, but also proposing access to mineral deposits on territories occupied by the Russian army in Ukraine, considering them as Russian property. Additionally, Russia promises to supply the US with Russian aluminum.
Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed to Kremlin journalist Pavel Zarubin on February 24th that Russia has an order of magnitude more rare earth materials than Ukraine, and stated that Russia can cooperate with both the U.S. government and U.S. companies in capital investment projects for rare earth materials. From the Institute for the Study of War report.
Nevertheless, work on the mineral extraction deal is ongoing, with both Kyiv and Washington stating that they expect to sign the agreement soon.
I spoke with a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, Brian Fitzpatrick, a Republican. We discussed issues related to a fair peace and the mineral agreement with the U.S. We need economic partnership for both of our countries. There is mutual understanding, and we are moving toward a decision that our leaders will make. Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, in a Telegram post. We are 100% getting this train back on the tracks. This mineral deal will be signed in short order, which will lead to a strong long-term economic partnership between the United States and Ukraine, and which will ultimately and naturally lead to security assistance. Brian Fitzpatrick, member of the U.S. House of Representatives, on X social network.
Temporary disagreements between Kyiv and Washington should not be seen as the end of dialogue, says Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine.
This temporary conflict in bilateral relations will allow us to move to closer cooperation and a clearer understanding of mutual interests, specifically between Ukraine and the United States. Moreover, this conflict is a temporary emotional surge that will help more clearly define Europe's position. We see that Europe is extremely interested in a fair and stable conclusion to the war.
The Kremlin is seriously counting on the development of relations with the US. Putin's presidential envoy on foreign investment and economic cooperation, Kirill Dmitriev, stated that Russia is open to economic cooperation with the United States, with energy sector partnership being the first step. However, according to the Russian dictator's press secretary, the US must first lift sanctions against Russia. Reported by Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.
Ukraine highly appreciates Germany's efforts to restore European security, said President Volodymyr Zelensky following a phone call with Friedrich Merz, leader of the Christian Democratic Union and Christian Social Union Party and candidate for the position of Chancellor of Germany. This was their first conversation after the conservative bloc's victory in the Bundestag elections. However, President Zelensky had previously met with Merz. After the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, Friedrich Merz visited Kyiv twice.
We coordinated our positions. Ukraine highly values Germany's efforts to restore European security and protect lives in our country. We remember that Germany is the leader in supplying air defense systems to Ukraine and plays a crucial role in ensuring our financial stability. Agreed with Friedrich Merz on further cooperation and contacts, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, on X social network.
The Christian Democratic Union and Christian Social Union Party of Friedrich Merz and the Social Democratic Party of Germany have agreed on a major credit package to finance defense and infrastructure. Merz announced the creation of a special fund worth 500 billion euros, describing it as an unprecedented investment. He emphasized that Europe and Germany must make significant efforts to strengthen defense capabilities.
The necessary decisions regarding the federal budget cannot be postponed. Therefore, next week, the parliamentary groups of the CDU, CSU, and SPD will submit a motion to the Bundestag to amend the basic law, allowing for defense spending beyond 1% of gross domestic product to be exempt from the debt brake. We aim to set up a credit-financed emergency program, a special fund of 500 billion euros for the next 10 years.
As reported by Spiegel, this is the first major breakthrough among political forces ahead of coalition negotiations. Minister of Defense of Germany Boris Pistorius called the decision a historic day for the Bundeswehr and for Germany. He believes these measures will not only modernize the army, but also strengthen the country's economy.
We are strengthening the economy and ensuring that the states also have more leeway in their tasks. We are sending a strong signal to the people in our country and to our allies. A corresponding resolution by the Bundestag would enable Germany and others to take on a leading role in strengthening NATO in Europe. Boris Pistorius, Minister of Defense of Germany, in an interview with Spiegel.
On March 5th, the Minister of Defense of Germany announced that arms transfers to Ukraine had reached their limits. At the same time, spokesman for the Federal Ministry of Defense, Michael Stempfler, emphasized that military support for Ukraine and strengthening Germany's defense capabilities must be addressed simultaneously. Berlin plans to unlock over 3 billion euros to support Ukraine. This aid had been planned for 2024 but was postponed. According to Friedrich Merz, he is in talks with ongoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz to resolve the issue of additional military aid to Kyiv soon.
Olaf Scholz's cautious policy has led to Germany fading into the background, even though Germany's military aid to Ukraine ranks second after the United States. Merz's task is to truly enhance Germany's reputation within the European Union and in foreign policy.
Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany, Annalena Baerbock, also demands the immediate unlocking of further aid for Ukraine. Moreover, she believes that at an emergency summit, EU partners should agree on a comprehensive financial package for Ukraine, and the European Council should make a decision on large-scale investments in EU defense. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
Zelensky confirmed a visit with a delegation to Saudi Arabia next week. A meeting with the Crown Prince is initially scheduled for Monday. After that, the Ukrainian team will remain in Saudi Arabia to work with American partners. Earlier at the EU summit, Zelensky voiced two types of silence that would prove Russia's readiness to end the war. This is the absence of attacks on energy and other civilian infrastructure, and second is a ceasefire on the water. The first funds from the United Kingdom, secured by the proceeds from frozen Russian assets, have been transferred to Ukraine. This was announced by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. Ukraine held £752 million. The funds will be used to strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities. The extraordinary revenue acceleration mechanism of the G7 countries provides for the provision of approximately $50 billion to Ukraine in the form of loans secured by the proceeds from frozen Russian sovereign assets. To repel the Russian missile attack this night, F-16 fighters and, for the first time, Mirage 2000 were used. This was announced by the President of Ukraine. The Russian troops used almost 70 cruise and ballistic missiles, as well as almost 200 attack drones against the infrastructure. According to Zelensky, the Mirage successfully worked against Russian cruise missiles. According to Air Force, the Ukrainian military shot down 25 Ha-101 cruise missiles, 8 caliber cruise missiles, a Ha-59 guided missile and 100 drones.